So the rest of these missions, as we go through them, start in like this similar kind of setup, which feels extremely Call of Duty, like modern Call of Duty-esque.
What the hell is wrong with that man's face?
I have no idea. The lip syncing isn't even correct.
Why is his face so wide?
Why is his butt chin so pronounced?
He looks like someone's glued a bunch of bread rolls onto his face and covered them in skin. That is horrifying.
And also, I think with the lip syncing, I think because this game technically has a Japanese dub, I think these talking heads were actually synced to that originally and not the English voices.
Yeah, believable.
So yeah, this is explaining more about the Kessler syndrome that just happened, which, like, admittedly, like, the degree to which they go with it is that it basically implies that, like, it only really goes as far as, like, affecting all of the electronics except the ones that possibly had the concept of like emergency power and like very few having EMP shielding, because we already saw there was still some amount of power at Gitmo.
And Ivan, you must use any and all methods at your disposal to neutralize the sod.
Yes, our enemy force is called the sod.
Oh boy,
it's the school of democracy, but everyone keeps calling it the sod. That it's like no one cares anymore about taking it seriously.
Oh man, that is delightful.
Yeah.
Poor sods.
Oh yeah, and there's the lady we saw at that trailer in Vegas.
Major Maynard of Air Force Special Operations Command. I'm your recon officer.
Surprisingly, not a blonde bombshell in black latex gear, as we've seen in previous Itagaki games.
Yeah, you can barely see any skin from the neck up, or from the neck down. That is bizarre.
Yeah.
Description of the items.
Funny enough, like, Ninja Gaiden 3 actually had a character like this, but that was Ninja Gaiden 3. I'm gonna go on a limb and say that, like, Stella is, like, way better than Mizuki, even though they're both pretty paper thin. Anything to not give Ninja Gaiden 3, it's Day in the Sun, because fuck that game.
Not sure if the tracking bullets will work. The EMP appears to have taken out the GPS data links and the broad-range radar systems.
Worst comes to worst, use them as a suppository.
By the stars. Just like World War II.
I do like that little line, just because it does highlight that being in a post-Kessler Syndrome world really would feel like a realm of anachronisms in a way. Like, just the melding of, like, trying to keep, like, new, current civilized stuff, but having to fall back on old, like, tactics for survival and, like, infrastructure.
Your job is to sniff out the enemy, so the hunters can bag the prey. If our little hound dog goes off mission, he gets put down.
Yep, that's Bob, ladies and gentlemen.
I remember that Elvis song.
Gear up.
You ain't never caught a terrorist.
You can tell he's the leader because he's got a yellow scarf. Oh, and also he's the yeah.
If he was a real
actually,
leader,
I was about to make
red.
a comment that also he was black, but then I remembered that like there's also like a second black person on the Delta Force team, so it's like that's not really a good enough like distinction. also kind of racist in that implication. In which case, I'm sorry. Also, here's something pretty ballsy. Ivan gives no fucks about the wind chill as he skydives without a shirt on.
These tattoos will bring him courage. Which, technically speaking, they do.
Naked Snake couldn't do this shit.
Now, fetch me my blonde wig.
It makes me look beautiful. Not at all emasculating.
That son of a bitch appear to have landed in Cuba. Again! I just got away from there.
I'm glad we both tuned in. Oh god, that NPC on the left got it worse. He's got the
Wow.
blue syndrome. He's got the missing textures. He's got the missing texture disease, which is like, I mean, I guess that's not as bad as the like exploding face mesh disease, but I mean, like, it's still pretty ghastly.
All the same, he got nuked straight into the rainbow dimension. What the fuck, dude?
But yeah, as I was about to say, I'm glad that both of us zeroed in on the idea of just doing hilarious fake Russian accents, because it is always fun to do.
Damn.
So yeah, we've traded in like Guantanamo inmates for bioterrorist units, led by a dude known as Big Mouse, which is the most Metal Gear sounding name ever.
Yeah. I will say I would be more terrified of a guy called Big Mouse than Ivan, because with a name like Big Mouse, you know he's got the reputation to back it up.
Yeah.
Anyone called Big Mouse is not fucking around.
Yeah. The nice thing about doing melee kills with hand-to-hand is that when you get those contextual ones, you get a chance at stealing the enemy's melee weapons. And it's always like a different one per melee weapon type.
I think the game just called you a hoe.
So yeah, so now that we got a bit more time to work with in this video than the last one, I can explain a few more things. I mentioned before at the start of the mission that, like, in score tag mode, you get to choose your loadout. You get a primary weapon, secondary weapon, and choice of melee. Throughout this LP, I am going to be using the same primary and the same melee. The melee is always going to, well, actually with the exception of 2 missions, like all missions I'm going to start with just my bare fists. And my primary weapon's always going to be the shotgun, the M870. My secondary is going to change depending on what I feel like. In like the last mission you saw, I was using like a regular assault rifle. This I am using a semi-auto sniper, and it's for this section of getting a kill streak with constant headshots. It's where the auto aim helps a lot.
Take it this isn't the kind of game where you can shoot the air tanks and they explode?
No, you can. Like, I mean, like there's like exploding the like tanks. Oh wait, you mean on like on the truck?
No, on the soldiers.
Oh no, you can't shoot those. They don't blow up if you shoot those. It's like it's still the same damage model as anything else.
Yeah, it's a
but
shame.
yeah, because of that kill streak I got with all the headshots, that's why you're able to see all those bonuses pop up right until the airstrike occurred. And yeah, another big thing with like with the melee and why it's actually a big incentive to do it as much as possible. Melee is the only way you're able to fill your Enbaku gauge, which is that yellow circle that you see filling up like in the corner. And honestly, that's a good way to go about encouraging it and like the whole reckless behavior the game wants out of you, because it really does become like, if you play this like most people assumed you played it as back in the day, which was like just a like generic feeling like cover shooter, then yeah, it would come off as like an extremely bad game, but it's not. It's not supposed to be played that way. The RE6 comparison, and even Vanquish, I'm going to add, feels especially apt in here, because Vanquish was absolutely not meant to be played as a cover shooter. Even though there were enough people back then, I'm pretty sure, that totally played it like that.
Oh yeah, I never really got to grips with it, probably because I was playing it as more of a slow-paced cover shooter.
Yeah.
But I've seen people playing it in speedruns and that, and it's like, holy shit, this is a completely different game.
Yep, that's basically the core difference between like Western and Japanese design approach to the genre. And unfortunately kind of the reason why so many of them get critically slammed, because I feel like it comes down to what people want most out of game feel. And in the case of like shooters, because the idea of pointing a reticule at something, pulling the trigger, and having it react in some way is one of the simpler things to program and like implement in a game. So much emphasis is placed on making sure that the audio and visual feedback from those actions is like the most godlike it can be. Which is something that like this game does not have. Its shooting is like totally functional, and when you look at it as like an extension of like your melee repertoire and how it's like glued together by your mobility options, like that makes more sense and it totally functions in that case. It's just a shame that with this game's development cycle it just did not have the time to really put the punchiness into like using the guns as much as people would have wanted.
Oh yeah, the troubled development of the game is infamous. Legendary, you might even say.
Yeah, it was going to be published by THQ. And then we all know what happened to THQ. Pre-Nordic.
And there was also going to be 3 playable characters with 3 completely different playstyles, and the game was going to give you unicorns and flapjacks every time you killed someone.
I was about to say that first part is like you confusing it with RE6, but then I remembered, oh wait, this is part of the joke. No, but the thing is, like, I mean, part of the ambition was that this game had a stupidly robust multiplayer mode that is no longer functional because it got shut down after a year. And that was like, prior to me like latching onto the score attack in this game, that was where the meat of the game was for me.
Well, I remember even right at release, there was barely anyone playing the multiplayer anyway.
I mean, like, the first 2 weeks, like, there was enough activities. Enough so that I was able to get, like, a full 8-on-8 siege match going, which was, like, the rarest possible thing you could get. And, like, that was fun. Like, it was pure chaos and pretty much demonstrated, like, I would actually say it demonstrated the game's mechanics even better than this does on score attack, because it's like, admittedly, like, Enbaku is not in multiplayer, like, it wouldn't make sense for it to be in it, but the one thing that, like, I guess multiplayer design lended itself better to with this game's mechanics was giving you more options to, like, freely get around the environment with your mobility, because you could scale up walls and stuff really quickly, but these levels, as you find, are as linear as can be. So it leads into situations where, like, your combat encounters, you don't really get to use your mobility as much to, like, take advantage and, like, flank them in any interesting way. It's a lot more like, you know, funny enough, Ninja Gaiden 2 in that case, where that game's levels were pretty linear, and the best way to go about it was to just, like, charge headfirst into a spike wall and hope, and eventually, just through sheer force of will and attrition, come out on top.
I was going to say the Ninja Gaiden 3 multiplayer mode as well, where the majority of the time it was just aim for the enemy and hope for the best.
Yeah. But again, that's Ninja Gaiden 3.
Yeah, the specter of that game looms long.
Yep. Despite this game's critical reception, I have no qualm in saying that despite this game's technical, like, problems and development history, Itagaki still made a better action game than Ninja Gaiden 3, so suck it, Hayashi.
Really a low bar there.
Also, a better melding of shooter and melee gameplay than RE6 did.
Slightly higher, but still low enough to step over.
I know. I'm pretty sure I'm just going to get a lot of flack from more people I share that with, because RE6 has the bigger brand RE in general has the better brand recognition, which I'm pretty sure is why enough people were willing to, like, give that game's combat the time of day.
Oh yeah, I bought it, I had it pre-ordered, bought it day of release. Probably mentioned this before. And about third of the way through, I was like, I'm not having fun with this.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just playing it wrong and it'll get better, and no, it didn't.
Funny enough, prior to us doing the recording of this, I actually did give RE6 another chance for the third time, and it's like, I got better acquainted with the mechanics to the point that I was able to, like, just go through the first map of on the mercenaries and, like, do S ranks on it with every character, which was fun. But, like, there's still things to that game's mechanics, like the combat gauge in particular, and how like so many, like, actions are tied to, like, the same button that, like, sometimes it overrides what you want. But yeah, I like this at least better because, you know, like, it's snappy and, like, feels way more consistent in that regard.
Definitely more immediate and actually, you know, explains what you need to do in order to make the guys explode.
Yeah, totally. And, like, it's not filled to the brim with, like, so much bloated nonsense in the campaign that, like, it, like, restricts you. Like, again, like I mentioned with the mobility, the difference in how it's used between this and the multiplayer, even with that difference, the way in which you, like, engage with the gun and melee combat simultaneously is still roughly the same.
I'm here.
No fucking QuickTime events either.
There is technically one later on, but it's only one.
Yeah, but
well,
not one every 17 steps.
Yeah. It's one as dictated by the story progression and not, like, as in... Because there are bosses where sometimes you'll, like, get into, like, a clash like a melee clash, and you'll have to wiggle the stick. But that's like that doesn't count.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that like action games have already been doing as part of the norm. And like that was a scripted sequence where you just have to sit there and watch the explosions. But again, like that was like less than a minute.
No, that's just rude.
Yeah.
Impossible.
A blonde sniper.
Women can be snipers too, you sexist pig.
No, the impossible part is that she's someone that he knew and presumed to be dead.
So he shot her with Baja Blast Mountain Dew?
No, the tracking bullets, remember?
Oh yeah, the giant suppository gun.
You really latched on to the whole suppository idea with those
I'm
things.
sorry, but it's gigantic and bulbous. That does not look like it's going in a gun.
See, I'd go more with like the... See, I'd be even more raunchy with that and just go with like the butt plug or dildo route for that.
Please, this is
Remember,
a family
anything's
show.
a dildo if you're brave enough.
Abraham Lincoln said that.
Yeah.
Too
So
soon?
yeah, in a cliche turn of events as always, Ivan, working with the terrorist group the Sod, realizes he may not be as like invested in doing the dirt that they're doing.
being infested like rats. You had
Are we the baddies?
then burn them in their nest. Those kids in the
Oh, and that's Big Mouse, the dude with the egregiously leather cowboy hat and jacket and pants. Everything is like snakeskin leather. It's so gaudy.
I'm just fascinated how these guys are supposed to be using presumably chemical weapons, and yet they all have mass amounts of skin on show. Do you not know how those work?
Varying amounts of skin and tattoos.
Yeah.
It's basically a rite of passage for anyone to become like a high level person in this organization. And it's like Isaac and then like Ivan pretty much got it like yo, you need to give yourself as many tattoos as this Buddhist monk did in Legend, where he had to exercise a violent spirit. But in order to protect himself, he basically had to like put as many of like these like sigils all over his body. But then he forgot to put it over his ears, so that resulted in, once he exercised the spirit, the damage was done that he became deaf.
You see, I was just thinking he was going to be like, with all these tattoos, I will become king of the terrorists.
You would think that, but surprisingly, even the actual leader of this group has less tattoos than Ivan. He still has a fair amount. So yes, this is where, like, he wanders off after seeing C4 supposedly die, and then gets caught by FEMA.
Well, this is just awkward.
And that's how he ended up in Gitmo.
Thanks, Obama.
This probably would have been when Obama was in office, considering how far back it was.
Well, you know, he was the one that was organizing the FEMA death camps and all, so...
True.
Oh, look, he's got a little
Like
Deadpool
cops, all
logo on the end
politicians
of
are
his
bastards.
cigarette.
Anyway, yeah.
Ivan, are you alright?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
give
just
it about
ran
a
into
B.
one of my former students. Her code name is C4. I put the tracking bullet into her.
She named herself after a
This is
chess
all too
move?
familiar.
After an
I'm sure
explosive.
the same
Yeah.
specialist.
Not
Now-
C3. Not
That's
C3
cooler.
though.
Calls himself Big
She
Mouse.
didn't get to pick the name C3. That other bitch died in Grozny Grad.
Damn it.
Yeah. So as we enter the final third of this, I did cover the stuff with like Enbaku and like sustaining it with the gunfire and using the auto aim on the sniper rifle to get very rapid, easy headshots. But I want to cover the final thing that's like being used heavily, and that is to do with the melee weapons and how I'm technically combining two attacks. I mentioned the ability to do jump attacks and to throw your weapons. There is a way to combine the two, and you've been seeing me do that quite frequently. And basically, I have coined it the lock shot. A combination of, like, I guess, like a portmanteau of the aim lock move, which is your long-range jumping attack, and melee shot, which is your ability to throw your weapon. Those moves are technically designed to be used, like, by themselves, and the fact that it is even possible to trigger both at the same time, I'm pretty sure is like a full-on exploit, but I don't care, it gets me easy points.
Hey, if it works and it's not multiplayer, who cares?
Yeah, because it's like... Because, like, going back to multiplayer, getting melee shots was stupidly hard to do, because it's like, they are like 100% instant kills if they manage to land. That's like their main balancing point. And the way it works in single player is that when you do either an aim lock or a melee shot, the AI is designed to respond in one of two ways. The first way is to get hit by it and instantly die, which is obvious. The second is dependent on what type of move it is. If it's an aim lock, they'll have a chance of blocking your hits. And because they usually have like a melee weapon or gun equipped, they'll be able to block it no problem. If it's a melee shot, they'll dodge out of the way because melee shots are unblockable. When you combine both of those at the same time, my theory is that you're basically overloading the AI with like more choices than it's initially intended to spawn with, because you have to always start it with an aim lock maneuver, and then during the initial jump arc you press the heavy attack button to do the melee shot. So they don't have it in them to really figure out whether that they can actually block or dodge it, so they just take it anyway. Like so. Like, it is so fast, because I'm pretty sure, like, the decision for when they actually block an aim lock is pretty much at the moment that Ivan is about to land and the hit actually connects. It makes it so much easier to get points consistently in this mode when you actually know that technique. And the fact that I didn't actually realize it until years and years later makes me feel so dumb. But now, with all that we've learned between the headshots and the lock shots, we are getting into the first proper fight with one of the SOD. And this one, if you played this on original hardware, was infamous. From a technical frame rate standpoint. You saw all those dudes standing there.
I think I can tell what's coming.
Yeah. To explain further, this game on the original hardware ran at a max of 30 frames per second, but more than often dipped below that, sometimes as low as like into the low 10s.
Ouch.
On the emulator, I can get it running as high as 50 FPS. Like that for some reason is its arbitrary cap, but it never goes below 30. This is an instance where it is running at the frame rate that it should have on the original hardware. So yeah, immediately trigger Enbaku. Also, the auto-aim glitched out on that head and thought it was still a target, so it kept following it.
Wow.
I love that. But yes, I did the did the whole aim lock into Enbaku trigger into rapid fire headshots. And this is great because I will trigger the cutscene and you'll still hear the bonus notifications. Just watch. See, it's still going!
Okay, we get the point.
Bonus time over. I love that so much.
Your beloved homeland.
Seriously, fuck the haters.
Your country
like,
destroyed.
You never experienced what this game was meant to be like. You sad, pathetic people.
Your pretty little student. Infected with biotoxin.
I told you it's just Mountain Dew.
You had ideals once. You had honor. But
I am not Japanese. What is this
nothing
honor?
more than a Yankee errand boy.
I am not a biker punk. How dare you?
I am perfect Russian man.
No salvation here for a traitor. Only a death warrant.
Now that's not a suppository.
And Uma Thurman somewhere is just wincing at the thought of this.
So yeah, here's phase 2. If you thought he went down pretty quickly, especially with guns, this is the phase where it's designed to heavily encourage more that while guns can still be useful, especially for, like, sustaining your Enbaku, you kind of want to, like, start taking more risks with doing melee. Even though he hits like a truck.
That would have been so cool if you'd actually been able to connect while he was running past.
Yeah. But again, because of, like, you saw, like, the desaturation, because I still have Enbaku triggered, technically, I still cannot die. Except now. It unfortunately ran out at that moment, so I have to be extra careful.
God damn it.
Yeah. Oh well. But fortunately, like, if I was more careful with, like, dealing damage earlier on, I could have, like, kept throwing my sledgehammer at him repeatedly to refill the Enbaku gauge in, like, 4 hits or so. But, no, that's it.
Don't you see what I've done here?
Made yourself look like a knockoff Akuma?
The city destroyed. Cursed for 100 years.
That last line feels like they automatically, like, faded out his recording, even though he was trying to, like, do, like, his, like, wheezing laugh as it dies down.
Yeah, just
to the point like that it makes it sound like he, like, was doing the line, but then just started moving away from the mic. Yeah. And then walked out of the recording booth.
Just makes him sound like he's got a really bad smoker's cough. Cursed for 100 years.
Walk out the door.
Well, say up.